Hi Caprice, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. So I have some questions to ask you about your academy experience.
Yes.
So the first question I have is, how do you feel that you've transitioned from your Ten10 Academy to your client work?
I think I've transitioned quite smoothly. I think the academy definitely helped bridge the gap between knowing and learning all this technical knowledge required for these roles, and then applying that to real life projects. So, which is always good because when I know I was quite worried before I was just going to be chucked into the deep end and having to code lots of stuff that I'm not sure about, but it was a really gradual process. My manager helped me, and it was just, we had lots of introductions, knowing about the architecture and things like that for the project. So I think it was quite good.
So were you quite new to tech then? Did you not really have any experience before that?
Yeah, so coding was all new. I did do a maths degree and masters, and I know it's a STEM subject, but we didn't do much coding on the course, maybe a bit of MATLAB, but it's nothing like what I do now or what I did in the academy. So it was still a steep learning curve.
What client teams have you worked with and what specific projects have you been responsible for during your placement?
Throughout the 2 years, I've had about 3 clients. So my first client was for a healthcare company, and I was a software developer in test. So they didn't have an automation framework at the time, so we were responsible for making that from scratch. And there was only 3 of us, so it was quite a small team. But I think we were quite lucky to see that project go from almost nothing to where it was when I left. So it was about just automating the front end, and then we did some back end automation. And then I was responsible for doing the scenarios, so full E2E testing. And then for my client that I'm with now, I'm a QA engineer, mainly doing E2E testing, front end, but I also do some manual testing. So part of the writing test cases.
What parts of the Ten10 Academy training have been the most useful? Because I know you kind of still learn whilst you're on the job, but what have you really taken from your training that you still use now?
I would say the coding. So I know during training we had some practical exercises. So it was like to code a rock paper scissors program. So I know we did that in Java. My first client we used C#, so they're both object oriented languages. So I still use that because now I'm using JavaScript and TypeScript. So you can kind of see, I think once you learn one language, everything kind of goes in place. Obviously, it's still hard to learn the rest, but it makes it a lot easier understanding that. But and also probably the agile methods that we learnt as well. The client now, I use agile every day.
So what's a typical working week or day for you?
Bright and early 9 a.m. stand-ups. I think my team, there's about 9 of us on the team, and then we just discuss what we're going to do, if there's any blockers, because we work in sprints, so 2-week sprints. So just trying to get work done or what we can do for the timeline. We also do bi-weekly demos to product and UX. So that takes some time. Yeah, I think every day is not the same. So I might start off with a plan of what I'm going to do, but then something might come up, might have to fix something, might have to test something. So it just changes every day.
Have your roles or responsibilities changed during your time on placement?
So definitely when I first started, I was in another team and I was mainly doing automation work. And now I moved to a different team, and now I've got more of a QA role. So I do manual testing and automation testing, but now I'm part of the Four Amigos process and writing test cases and going through the whole journey. So a lot more responsibility, but it's nice having that context there as well. And now it will change again because we'll be doing more integration testing and working with more closely with the developers. So I think that will be quite interesting.
So how do you feel about all the changes? Do you think you were kind of prepared for that, or when you went in your client work, were you a bit like, oh, I'll be doing this thing all the time, and then when it changed, it shocked you, or were you kind of aware that that was what was going to happen?
Yeah, I think I just thought, oh, I'm in this team, getting comfortable, everything's good. And then I got like a message saying, we're gonna move you to another team, hopefully. And I was like, oh, wow. I just next sprint. So I was a bit like, oh, I was comfortable here, but now with the new team, I enjoy that just as much. And they're all really nice. So I think you just have to be prepared for change and accept it. And plus you'll learn a lot more. You don't want to be comfortable and stuck somewhere. You want to keep learning different things. So
That's brilliant. So my next question for you is, what technology tools, frameworks and processes have you gained experience with since starting your client work?
our code is TypeScript. We have our test framework is Cypress. So we have Gherkin. We write that in Gherkin. So we also use AWS, GraphQL, Postman. So a lot of tools that were probably different to my first placement. So at least I now have a range, because I know my first client, it was C# Selenium. Now here it's TypeScript Cypress. Yeah, it's a lot different. I think I prefer Cypress maybe. It's a lot simpler, but yeah, we also use Jira for sprints, planning, and agile. Yeah, I think that's all.
I think it's really good to get in different experiences from so many different types, because you never know where you're going to go to next, and you never know what type of software they're going to use. And if you've got experience in the majority of them, you know, you'll always have some sort of semi-knowledge before starting, which is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not gonna go in there blind and be like, oh, never seen this before. So at least
Yeah, exactly. So my next question is, how has your client supported your development? So this could be in training sessions, one-to-one, stand-up meetings, individual projects, or like shadowing more experienced team members.
when I first started the client, I was paired up with another person who was an SDET, and we were kind of, yeah, we're buddied up, and she would just show me the ropes, show me how she does things, what to look out for. And this went on for at least a couple of months. And we're on the same team, and now we're friends, so I can literally ask her anything, which is really nice. And then I was also, before I started working on stories and tasks, I was given another ticket just for a visual testing tool, just to get me up to date with how to use their processes, how their PRs are structured and things like that before I can merge that. So it was good to get that experience before I start adding to their code base. And I also still have fortnightly one-to-ones with the test lead. So he gives me like a little development plan, or what I need to work on, or what's going well, or what you think I would benefit from. So yeah, I'm supported really well. So that's good.
My last question for you today is, what support have you received from 1010 during your placement?
They always have different initiatives throughout the year that you can get involved in, and talk to maybe the newer academies. So recently I did a lunch and learn on a visual testing tool, which is what I worked on my current client project. So it was kind of giving back to the other academies and seeing what they do. The wellbeing team is also really good. They're always there if you have any questions related or unrelated to your project that maybe you didn't want to ask the client. So that's really helpful. And of course, there's always socials going on monthly. So it's nice to see how people in your cohort are doing, and meeting other people. And, you know, we're all in the same field. So it's nice to talk to them and see what they're doing.
Yeah, it's nice that you have, you know, your employees that you're with now at your client placement, but also you can go back and you have people, you know, who have gone through the same training as you or are newer, like you said. Thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Oh, thanks for having me.